Before we go on, I want you, number one, right now, I'm going to pause. I'm going to take attendance, and you are going to go to Jupiter and read what I sent you. From now on, quizzes will be online, on Schoology. If you don't have it, if you don't have your computer, you're going to run into issues. So make sure you're bringing your computer every day. Every single day. So today's 50-point question was a simple question that everybody should be able to do, which is draw a cell membrane. And label it. Now, if you can't do it, I understand that. I knew, right? It's not a surprise. I'm not disappointed. I knew it was the situation. I'm confused on why, right? Which, again, you did a great job on your quiz. Great job, right? Which confuses me on, let me pause this. So the quiz, the OST questions were more difficult, even though they already had it drawn and labeled for you, because you actually had to apply your knowledge. Now, I saw some, let me draw some of the examples that I have here about cell membranes. This person drew something like this. Well, that's a ball of what I'm assuming is phospholipids, and I'm assuming that they know, because they didn't label it, I'm assuming that they know, oh, I see what they did. I see what they did. They drew this here, and they were saying that that's the channel protein, and they were probably going off of their notes. But again, if you don't process the notes, if you don't pay attention to what the notes mean, you're going to get confused, even if it's open notes like this is. A protein is sitting in there. That's a channel protein. That's a picture of the membrane from outside. Okay, I can see where they were going with that. And they said, I'm assuming that they meant like this is a cell membrane. It's very interpretive. It really is not the go-to illustration from cell membrane. But I could see that. Then they drew something like this. Yeah. And they said little things like this. And they said high. And then on this side, they said low. Which, I mean, it's honestly, I can see where they were going with it. It's not the best drawing, though, right? Someone else drew this. Then they put like something like here, a box like that. And then they said leaving sodium. And they, for some reason, I think they drew a sugar. They correctly drew a glucose molecule, but then they put Na, which is fine. That's great that you know Na is sodium. That's fantastic. H2O inside. That's fantastic. Then they elaborated and they did this. Oops, that was wrong. Because they did that. What's wrong with this? Yeah, the tails have to be pointing towards each other. Yeah. And so they put Na out here. And so obviously they put a lot high sodium inside and low outside. Again, not really labeled. You have to actually make sure that if somebody tells you, teacher tells you to make sure they say draw a high and a low, you want to make sure it's clear what's high, which side's high, which side's low. Someone else drew kind of this. That's it. And then they circled it and put channel protein. Okay, that one's wrong, right? And we'll see why in a minute, right? Everybody should know that that's wrong, or most people should know that's wrong, but obviously that's not the case. Someone drew, honestly, this one, I'm not even sure. It was like, it's hard to see it, right? But because I don't want to misrepresent it, but it's like this. I said that's a cell membrane, I guess. And they said cell membrane. I would say that the first one was probably better drawn in this case than this. If that's, I'm not sure where they were going with this, but it's confusing to me, and so therefore it would be wrong. If it's confusing, it's wrong, right? So, and then I have this, and then this, which is obviously this is kind of much more correct. They didn't label the phospholipids, though. They did draw the channel, but they didn't label it. It's much more correct than anything so far. Then they did something interesting, confusing to me. They put hydrophobic on this side. It's not true. And then they did this. I'm going to use a different color. And then this. Not sure what's going on there. I mean, it's a good attempt. It's not a bad attempt. Well, it's a bad attempt because it's failed it, but it's not. There's some good things about it, right? There's some other drawings. One kid tried to draw the entire endomembrane system. They put the Golgi apparatus, the cytoskeleton, the sodium channel, a vesicle. More sodium enters because it's high outside and low inside, then exits. That was correct. It's just it wasn't a membrane, right? This kid, and I'm going to go ahead and say their name, Whitner did the perfect drawing, right? Jamira did everything that you could possibly ask for a membrane. So let's go ahead and just copy. I would just copy hers. I could because I could just photocopy and hand it out as the correct answer. So this is what you should have drawn, and of course it's color coded. You don't have to do it color coded. You have hydrophilic heads facing inside and out. Why is hydrophilic head, not hydrophobic, facing in and out? Because water's outside and inside. And you have hydrophobic tails facing each other. And Whitner labeled those as hydrophobic and hydrophilic. Then she put the protein, the channel protein in there, which is again correct. And she had the high outside. And she did low inside. And I could see that. How can I see that? Because I can count 5 and 4. And I could see she also went ahead and drew the arrow showing that it was going in. Perfect. And she labeled this a chain of this is how intensely accurate she was. She put a protein and she said chain of amino acids. And I don't mean to put you on a spot, Whitner, but you did a great job, and I think we should be celebrating your work. Now, it's not just being able to memorize, it's understanding what's going on here. So so drawing it's fine, but as I said, she knew that she actually labeled this as hydrophilic, and this is hydrophilic, and she labeled that as hydrophobic. More than I asked, really, on both sides. She labeled these as phospholipids. And she actually labeled outside and inside. So that's everything anyone could ever ask of you. If someone asked you, like I did for your quiz this morning, to draw a phospholipid or a cell membrane, a cell membrane, right? Not the endomembrane system. Good try, though. It's a lot of pieces, too much to draw in 5 minutes. But cell membrane with an integral membrane protein or a channel protein that has high sodium outside and low sodium inside. And what direction is the movement of the ions going? All right. So we got it? Like that's the, you agree we've drawn this on the board, I want to say 50 times, 100 times in a quarter minimum? Like you should know this. So tomorrow I'll ask you, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to ask you the same question. Give you 5 minutes to do it. Either you're going to do it or not. I'm not even changing the question. I'm telling you ahead of time. I'm telling you right here in the recording. You need to be able to do this. It's not that hard. Fair? All right. It's 50 points today, 50 points tomorrow. Let's get to 0. Come on, that was a joke. What are you so sad about? It's just a quiz. You're going to have one every day. It'll be a bad grade for now. As soon as you start to get some more quizzes done, the grade will go right back up. Don't worry about it. It's the beginning of the quarter. What if I make tomorrow's 100? So that way you can get, your grade will pop up a little more. What do you think? That make you feel better? Not so sad? What's this face about? All right, she says sure. I'm just saying you guys all look sad. Yeah. I don't want you to be sad. It's the new year. You look at me like you want to kill me. What did I do? I gave you an easy question. All right, let's go on. This is old stuff. We got to go out to new stuff. All right, so now let's move on to new stuff. So now we're going to move on and we're going to look at 2 organelles. We're going to look at a mitochondria, which doesn't have one membrane, but rather it has 2 membranes. Both of these are phospholipids. Both of these membranes are phospholipid bilayers. This is a mitochondria. And the other one is a chloroplast. And chloroplasts look like so. Two membranes. These membranes, though, are arranged in these stacks. These stacks are called thylakoids. These are just 2 membranes, an inner and outer. So that would be the inner. And then that's, of course, the outer. Then there's a matrix in between. So these are creating compartments. That's important because that's an important concept in biology, that you create these compartments or places where things can happen in a cell. I just want to point out that in a prokaryote, there's only one compartment, only one room to this house. A prokaryote only has one room. The DNA, everything's right here. No membranes inside a prokaryote. No nucleus, no Golgi body, no endoplasmic reticulum. Mitochondria and chloroplasts, though, they have membranes. In fact, they have two membranes. These are organelles that have two membranes. So these are found in eukaryotes. I need to say that there are bacteria or prokaryotes. Remember that a prokaryote does mean bacteria. Are we clear? Bacteria is the same as a prokaryote. There are some bacteria that do photosynthesis. And these bacteria that have a single room, they do photosynthesis. There are a few, but the one that are very famous are something called cyanobacteria. They change the earth. We know that they increase the oxygen before humans walk the earth. You have to understand this theory. I understand people don't believe in evolution and all the rest of that, but that's fine. But you have to be able to explain it, whether you believe it or not. It's not important to me to the objective of the class. Cyanobacteria were around before animals, before plants. Bacteria were the first. And cyanobacteria specifically took a planet. Our planet used to be purple. Planet Earth was rotating and it was purple, it was not green. Today when you look and you see green and blue, if you look from outside you see green and blue. But our planet used to be purple because the bacteria that would do this, there were a lot of bacteria doing all kinds of different photosynthesis, but some of them were actually purple. And most of the living things in all the liquids were purple, so instead of seeing a green forest, you saw purple, and that's what was reflected in the sky. So the planet was purple. So in any case, the changes as the bacteria, cyanobacteria was green because they used a green photosynthesis pigment. Does everybody know what a pigment is, correct? I know the artists should know what a pigment is. It's going to keep coming. I'm still forever. Just get over it. So the artist should know what a pigment is. A pigment, it gives you color. And to be clear on how a pigment works is if you have a molecule, a pigment's a molecule. Pigments are molecules that allow white light goes in, and the only thing that is not absorbed, pigments absorb all the light except what? The color of the pigment. So blue light in this pigment is the only light that your eye would see. Your eye would see blue. Why is your eye seeing blue? Because that pigment absorbed all the other color except for blue. Is that making sense to everybody? That's true of every pigment. Some people call black a color. I'm sure an artist would call black a color. But technically, is black a color, or is it? It's actually the lack of color. Black is the lack of light. The fact that when you're looking at black, you're looking at the complete absorption of all light. And when you're looking at white, it's not a color. I understand that an artist would call black a color and white a color. I get that. But in science, when you look and you see a white pigment, that pigment is not absorbing theoretically any light. So it's not actually a color, it's all the colors. And how do I know that? If I took light, and you've all know this, if you see light and you take and run it through a prism, you know what a prism is, correct? Right? What's going to happen when it comes out? You're going to see red come out. You're going to see orange. Oh, why did it do that? You see red, orange, green, blue, indigo, and I never know what indigo really looks like. Artists, is that indigo? Kind of light purple, maybe? Do you agree?
I'd say that's more violet.
Okay, so where do I go? Do I go this way? Here? Or a little this way?
That's more violet.
Well, then what's violet? What's violet here?
Violet's like a lighter one.
All right, so this is indigo. And then we go to violet, I guess. Something like that. So in other words, what the colors of the rainbow, right? Skittles. Correct? Oh, wait, red. I forget. Red, orange, yellow. Forgot yellow. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. The colors of the rainbow. That's what a rainbow is white light that runs through a prism. What prism is the light flowing through that creates a rainbow? Well, you call that prism a water droplet. Small water droplets in the sky, in the air, take and separate the light into its component colors on the other side, which creates a rainbow. So when you see a rainbow, it's because there's water, a lot of water in the air, the sun's out, the light goes through the rain, through the little water droplets that are in the air, and you see a rainbow. So that's light, that's pigment, that's all cool. There was a bacteria, and we know this because we can see some of these bacteria. We can go to certain places on Earth and we can still find these purple bacteria that do photosynthesis with a purple pigment. So they absorb all the lights except for purple. But cyanobacteria do it like plants. They use a pigment that is green. Cyanobacteria use a green pigment. I'm not sure what that pigment is. I don't know if it's chlorophyll or not. So I don't remember, to be honest, if I ever knew. But cyanobacteria use a green pigment. Chloroplasts, in a eukaryote, right? And in eukaryotes, the things that have chloroplasts are also known as what? Plants. That's correct. Plants use a green pigment called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll absorbs all the light except for what? Green. If I shine a green light on a plant, only green light, will it grow? No, why not?
Because it's absorbed all
It can't absorb it. Because this light is the energy required by plants. Okay. So understand that. Chlorophyll absorbs all the light except green. And actually, there's several different kinds of chlorophyll for the record. There's different types. I'm not going to go into it, but just know that there's different kinds of chlorophyll. Each one absorbs a different part of the rainbow, except for green. Are we all good with that? Okay. Now, these two organelles, they do opposite reactions. Chloroplasts take CO2 and they add it to water. Let me write that smaller. Zoom in here. Chloroplasts take CO2 and add it to water in the presence of light, because you need light for energy. Without it, you can't do it. And they make C6 H12O6. We all know it's glucose, among other sugars. And then they also produce excess oxygen gas, O2 gas. That is the overall process for something called what? Photosynthesis. The photo means light. A photograph is a graph of light. A photo. Could we close our computers right now? We're writing notes. Not to get all bossy, but we're taking notes right now. We're in biology. We're not in wherever else you are. So it's light. Photo means light, and synthesis means to make. So using light, photograph is, a graph means to draw. Artist, graph means drawing. Graphic arts is drawing arts, right? So graph means drawing, and photo means light. So it's a drawing of light. She used chemicals, right, on special paper that reacts to light, but it's still an image made by light. But in photosynthesis, you're making something. What are you making? Sugar. You make sugar using light. So you use light for energy, and you take CO2, carbon dioxide, and you make sugar. Notice that, let me try to be a little clearer here, where one might ask some questions. One question someone might ask, bless you. Someone might ask, yes, bless you. Where does the, why is it, that's weird. I didn't ask it to do all that. Where does the carbon in sugar come from? Well, it comes from carbon dioxide. So the sugar that you eat came from what? Which is where? In the air. Remember that. It's in the air. The water, I hope you know, is just liquid water. It comes from the roots. Plants absorb it through the roots. Are we clear? You can spray the leaves with water all day long. It has to enter the roots to get into the plants. All right. Oxygen gas is produced as an excess, but where, the rest of this, obviously we'll see where it goes, where it comes from, but that's it. This, where does the rest of these, where do the oxygens come from that are in glucose, right? Let me use red. Where's the oxygen coming from that's in glucose? It's coming from the oxygen in CO2. And you need six carbons, you need 6 oxygens, so you have to balance the equation. But in any case, the carbon comes from CO2, the oxygen comes from CO2. Where does the H2 come from? The hydrogen, the H12 come from? It comes from water. It comes from water. So the H here comes from water. And where does the oxygen come from that's being kicked out, that's being produced in excess? It comes from water. So plants literally break water up. They take water and they break it. The reason plants absorb the water is not just because it's the solution, it's a solvent for what's going on in their chemical processes that are going on in their tissues, but it's also the source of electrons. And it's the electrons that are going to be key here. But that's photosynthesis. Now, interestingly, if you do the opposite in a mitochondria, you take oxygen. This is what we do. We only do this. Plants do both of these, by the way. Let's be clear. Plants do both. A lot of people think, plants need carbon dioxide, and plants, they don't need oxygen. They need carbon dioxide. No, they need both. But the reason they don't need any extra oxygen is because what? Why don't they need any extra oxygen? We need oxygen, correct? We don't need CO2. Why don't we need CO2? Why? Well, because we produce it. We exhale it. It's waste for us. Plants don't need any extra oxygen. Why? That's it. They produce it. They produce so much of it that they have extra, and they just throw the extra out. They produce plenty of oxygen. They don't need any extra oxygen. They do need oxygen though, because they have mitochondria. They don't produce sugar for us to eat. They produce sugars for them to eat. They're producing the sugar for them. They use that sugar. They eat that sugar. They don't need us. We need them. Right? So in any case, mitochondria do the opposite, right? So mitochondria take oxygen gas from the air and they add it to what? What are we going to add to if we're doing the opposite? Can you look on the screen and tell me? That's right. They're taking the oxygen gas, and we take oxygen, air. That's why we breathe. The whole reason we need to breathe and pump our blood is to get oxygen. That's it. And the only reason we need oxygen is to add it to what? Sugar. Now, we do need to add it we could add it to proteins or fats or nucleic acids as well. But we need to add oxygen to a byproduct of sugar so that we can produce what? Well, that's right. We produce energy in the form of ATP. Rather than rewriting that, let me just erase this and move this over. We produce energy. Of course, we're not producing light. Nobody in here glows. I know some girls think they glow. Some guys think they glow. I think Ote thinks he glows a little bit. Yeah, he does. Anyways, just joking. So you eat sugar, you breathe oxygen so that you can make ATP. That's energy. Now, it's not light, but it's still energy. Still energy, still the stuff. And then you take that and then you add it to, then what else do we produce? What else do we produce?
Carbon dioxide.
That's right. Look at, I said it's the reverse, guys. Look at what you're talking about. Process the information. Write it down. Stop doing other class work from other classes. Kind of stuff that needs to be happening if you expect to keep up. We're not slowing down for you. Remember that. So that's right. They're gonna produce CO2, carbon dioxide. That's what we breathe out. Plus what? CO2 plus what? What else do we produce? What else do we produce? Not woo. Anybody? Water's correct. Yes. Why did you say water? Who said water? Why did you say water? You're right. It is water. Why did you say water? Did you guess? Yeah, but where'd you get water? Because we said it's the opposite, right? And that's what was there. Carbon dioxide and water are here on this side of the reaction in photosynthesis. In respiration, by the way, we call this cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is doing the opposite. Instead of taking water and CO2 and making sugar, you're taking sugar and oxygen and breaking it to carbon dioxide and water. So where did the carbon, when you breathe out, when you eat a candy bar, assuming you use that energy, you produce it and you use the energy, you don't put it away. If you're using the energy, where's that candy bar going? You eat a candy bar. It is turning an ATP. Yes. The energy that used to be in sugar, it's correct. The energy goes here. The energy that plants put into sugar go into ATP. That's correct. Where does the rest of that sugar go? Where's the mass go? Where do the atoms go? CO2. So you make, and what do you do with that CO2?
You breathe it out.
You breathe it out. So everything you eat, assuming you use it, you breathe out what you eat. If you eat it and use it, you breathe it out. If you poop it, you never used it. Is that clear? And of course, you also are going to have to pee. Why? Because you're making water. So you take that sugar and you make water and CO2. The water actually didn't come from CO2, though. I misdrew that. The water actually comes from the oxygen. You take that oxygen you breathed in, all you're doing all day long is breathing in oxygen and making water. You literally make water in your cells, in your mitochondria. You make water by mixing oxygen with hydrogen. Do it all day long. And our lab for this week is going to be making oxygen. Oh, not this week, next week, because I'm not going to be here Thursday or Friday. We're going to take water and we're going to break it apart in a test tube. Thursday and Friday this week. Did you read the Jupiter message that I sent you? It has a PDF. I explain everything. I'm not here on Thursday and Friday. My last day to have meetings with you is Wednesday night. If you need issues with your grades,